So is it a bad thing if someone tells you that you're doing something wrong, or is it just them doing you a favor by letting you know about it? Unfortunately, not only have I been the one to tell someone that they're doing something wrong, but I've also been told the very same thing as well. Now, I don't see it as a bad thing, but some people do get very offended when this happens to them. And to be honest, I don't blame them either, because they may not realize it, but they're doing more harm than good. In today's video, we're going to be looking at this snapper lawnmower, and aside from an air filter here and there and maybe a spark plug, very little maintenance has been done to it. Maintenance isn't tough to do, and the only real struggle is to find the time to do it more than anything else. Of course, being motivated to do the maintenance is important as well, but we need to take baby steps before we start running. Now, I've already fixed this mower, and if you want to see that video, there should be a link to it at the top of the screen or at the end of the video. And I'm just going to use the video as a background while I talk about the times I've had to tell people they're doing something wrong with either their maintenance or even how they're using their machine. Of course, I'm not any better, so I'm also going to be mentioning the times it's even happened to me as well. So what's the best way to find out how to use and maintain your particular piece of equipment? That's an easy one. It's all in your owner's manual. But what if you bought yours used or was given to you and it didn't come with one? What then? Are you simply out of luck? So if you find yourself in that kind of situation, I would search online for your owner's manual by finding your model and serial number printed somewhere on your machine. Now for lawnmowers, it's going to be a sticker on the mowing deck and not on the engine. For blowers, it should be a sticker on the housing on either the side of it or possibly at the bottom. The same goes for string trimmers, mainly because there's not a lot of real estate to hide a sticker, but what happens if you can't find it anywhere? Now this has happened to me before, mostly on large edgers, and there's really not much that can be done other than find a model that looks exactly like yours, right down to the nuts and bolts. And only after confirming that you're 99% sure that it is the same can you use the same owner's manual. Now once you find the one you need, start reading, and by the end of the manual, you'll have been exposed to all you need to know, at least what the manual says you need to know, because there's always room for improvement. But is it that easy? Well, not really. Just because you read it in a book doesn't mean you'll have a great idea on what to do. The hardest part is still to come. That, of course, is using what you've learned, and this is where most people are going to struggle with it. The reason I know this is because that's what happened with me. Saw it in the book, thought I understood it, but when it came time to put the tools in my hand, I wasn't sure what to do. Now for me, the biggest part was I was worried without someone there to guide me. I was sure that I was going to make a mistake and I was going to break something. The only thing that I can say is that the chances of that happening are very high, and you're going to have to get used to the idea of failure, otherwise nothing's going to happen. So what's the difference if I let it break now while trying to fix it versus letting it break later on if I ignore all of its maintenance then? Unfortunately, you make a great point. There really is no difference other than being able to use the machine a little bit longer until it finally breaks down. So it's up to you to weigh the risk and find out which one you're comfortable with. No, as for me, I see it this way. I can either lose $400 in a short time with some risk, or I can save hundreds of dollars more when I don't have to replace it year after year. Sorry to bring money up, but aside from a bit of pride, aren't we all trying to avoid from having to buy a new machine every couple of years? Otherwise, we'd have to budget in a new machine every couple of years, and we wouldn't have to worry about such things. So if you're a billionaire and don't have to worry about it, I'd stop the conversation right now. However, the likelihood of that happening is slim, so I'll continue. Of course, most consumers will not be taking their machines apart to change a belt or an engine part, so what exactly are most not doing correctly then? Actually, it's just the basics that they're messing up on, and the number one item is of course changing their oil. I'm not sure how long ago this particular engine had its oil changed before I got a hold of it, but by the way it looked, it was a long time ago. When I asked about this mower's maintenance schedule, they didn't have much of an answer for me. Only that the air filter was replaced not too long ago and the spark plug maybe a couple of years ago, but they couldn't be certain. I then asked them about the oil and they said they couldn't remember either, which probably means it's never been changed. I will say this, if you don't do any kind of maintenance to it, don't expect it to last for a long time and don't act surprised when it breaks down sooner than you want it to. I then asked them why they didn't do their own oil changes, to which they didn't have a really good answer for. Basically though, they didn't feel comfortable doing it, which is understandable, but why is that? Just like doing anything for the first time, you're going to be less than efficient and graceful, but after a couple of times, hopefully you're going to get into a routine and it goes a whole lot better. Most will never know though because they simply don't want to try and get themselves in a situation they can't get themselves out of, and I totally understand the feeling. However, I am a huge believer in seeing it done for the first time and realizing that my fears about it were me simply making it much worse than it really was. The next time I came across a situation like this was with a relative who was having an issue with getting their lawnmower started. So after going through all my normal checks, I then performed a compression test only to find out that the reading was much lower than it should have been. After asking about the last oil change, they said they never changed it, and when I asked them why they didn't, they said because the sticker on the engine told me I didn't have to. I then informed them about the reason for the sticker mainly being for the company's benefit and making more sales and not for the consumer's benefit. So the marketing worked out great for the company, but more than likely they'll have to buy a new mower now or later on depending upon if they want to limp it along for another year. Now to be fair, the mower looked practically brand new even though it was about 5 years old, which means they were taking good care of it, they just didn't go as far as they needed to go. I wish I could remember what happened to that mower, but unfortunately this was a job I did on location, so there's no video record of it. The other item that seems to get neglected quite often is making sure the blade is sharp on your lawnmower. I will say this, you can use a dull blade to cut the grass with, but at that point it's not really cutting the grass but clubbing it into pieces instead. This will leave the cut edges on the grass basically torn apart and eventually cause those edges to brown, which may not be what you want. So to make it less stressful on not only your engine but you as well, make sure the blade is sharp, otherwise get ready for a less than stellar mowing experience. So this brings me to what someone told me I was doing wrong and I'm still currently doing wrong, which is the way I sharpen my blades. So what am I doing when I'm sharpening my blades then? While I only sharpen the very edge of the cutting part, I am not cutting a new face in the blade. This makes sharpening them fast and easy with little worry about having to balance them each and every time I do it. Now if I am worried that the blade is indeed causing a vibration in the engine, then yes, I'll check the balance, but it's not very often I do it. So is this the wrong thing to do? And the answer is yes. You should always check the balance of the blade, especially if you just sharpened it. So why don't I do it then? Because I only choose to do it when I feel it's needed, which saves me a lot of time. The reason why is because since I do this quite often, by the end of the year, this could save me hours of time, which is something I don't have a lot of. However, if you only have the one lawnmower, then yes, take the extra time to balance it and it could extend the life of that engine by a long time. And if you choose to not do it then, well, I'm fine with your choice, just don't be surprised when something terrible happens to your engine. Now the engine on this mower was experiencing some issues during hot starts and it seemed to stem from the lack of oil maintenance as well. The only thing they could do was if they had to shut it off, they then had to let it cool down before they could start it again. So if this is a problem you're having to deal with right now, you might want to recall how many oil changes you've done since you've had it. And if it's a used mower that you just got, well, welcome to the world of small engines and I feel sorry for your situation. Now I do believe they declined any work to fix this mower and it was mainly due to cost, but at least they got a lot of use out of it. So my question is, when was the last time you changed the oil in your machine? And if you can't remember, I think it might be time. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions about this project or about your own projects, and I hope to see you in the next video.